We have an opportunity now to just give you a quick overview of the financial toolboxes that will play a key role in many of your projects, and hopefully you'll maybe use these later on after you've completed Math 108. You'll find they're pretty useful. We've got 8 different boxes. The bottom 2 are pretty straightforward, self-explanatory, so I won't take time to introduce you to those. I'm just going to focus on these 6 up here in a moment. Also, we've listed for you the formulas we're using. In each gray cell that is password protected, we've got the formulas in case you want to know how they truly operate. Below the formulas, we've also indicated the cash flow model graphically, as well as some nice rules of thumb for why the negative. The negative plays a key role in the cash flow model. You're going to see the negative appear quite often using Microsoft Excel. And so you need to better understand it, and that'll help you. And finally, right up here, we mentioned that BYUI is the password on this particular worksheet in case you want to take it off. To take a password off, you would simply go up to Tools and Protection, maybe on Protect Sheet right there, and you would type in the BYUI password. But basically, the padlock down here, and the reason for the protection is just so that your cells don't get corrupted if you accidentally delete things. All right, let's get started. So off on the right-hand side, I've got a whiteboard, and I'm going to pull from some file examples here, some examples I put together. I'm just going to drag those over one at a time. So let's get going with a future value example. Now, as I read the paragraph, I'm going to be looking over here at the correct toolbox to use, and I'll be typing things as I talk. So assume that you invest $100 monthly into a Roth IRA retirement account. So that would obviously be a payment. Now, you could type in $100 as a positive, but a good practice to start to get into is think of it as the outflow, in this case being negative $100, because it's going to be money that leaves your budget as an outflow. And in addition to that $100, we're going to also, I notice here, it says a lump sum of $250. And so that lump sum of $250, it too would be an outflow. So I'm going to make it likewise a negative. So it's important that these two match in their signs. And let me back that up and hit return. There we go. Since they both represent money out the door towards an investment, they both need to have the same sign. Either they're both going to need to be positive, or they're both going to need to be negative. 7% is the compounded monthly interest, so I'll put a 7 up here on the APR, compounded 12. Now number of years will be 40. And when you hit enter, if you've got the correct givens all in place, you get your future value of $266,559.19. And that's pretty straightforward, I think. That's a great example to begin with. So let's get rid of that one, and we'll bring on board the payment example. And this one will be nice and practical for a car loan. Suppose you're interested in purchasing a vehicle that, but have determined that you will need to borrow $15,000 over a 5-year period. Well, the amount you borrow is oftentimes called the present value. So I'm going to put that in. This time I'll make it a positive because it's money that's coming to me as inflow. In the cash flow model, it's going to be money coming in my direction as I borrow. It's going to be over a 5-year period. I'll put a 5 right there. And you'll notice that the APR is 3.5%. So 3.5 compounded monthly. And there you have it. There's your car payment of $272.88. Notice that it's negative. It's in red, and that's because it's outflow, you would call it. It's a negative in the sense that it's money draining away from your budget. You have to write a check or make an auto payment there of $272.88 each month. All right, so that's a pretty straightforward example. Now another one that I don't use quite as often, but it's definitely doable, is for the years involved in a typical scenario. Let's see if we can make some sense out of this paragraph. Assume that you're curious about how long it would take you to achieve a future value of $250,000. I'll place the $250,000 over here. And the reason I'm using this particular toolbox again is because I'm interested in time, the number of years. All right, so $250,000 is the future value. If you knew you could invest $75 monthly into an investment account, that's going to basically be a payment. So I'm going to make that a payment of negative $75 because, again, it's outflow. It's money that we're sending out the door in the form of an investment, so I'll make it negative. Now, I'm not going to trust these answers here until I get obviously all my data typed in here carefully. This investment apparently is earning, on average, 8% compounded monthly, so I'll put an 8% in the APR. And look things over, and I think I've got all the details ready to go. Notice we didn't start with a lump sum, so this last sentence right here implies then that I have nothing in the present value to begin with. And so in essence, it's going to take me about 39.4 years to achieve $250,000 when I'm putting into the investment a mere $75 a month for that length of time at 8%. All right, so that's a great way to get a good feel for how long it takes to achieve a certain goal. Next example is one of my favorite. We're going to be paying on a mortgage for a home, and we want to know just how much we still owe. Now, granted, we could perhaps call the bank or look it up on the internet, but it's kind of fun to know that it's pretty fast with this little toolbox. So here we go. Suppose your original 30-year home loan was put together with a 6% compounded monthly APR. All right, so obviously 6% is going to go into this toolbox. And the future value, remember when you pay your debt down, you're trying to get it down to zero. In fact, you're trying to bring it to death, as they say. And this is a great reason we call it a mortgage, because of the mortal, so the mort, M-O-R-T, prefix in the word deals with death. So we're bringing the loan to death, meaning a zero balance. And to do that, though, we're going to need to be paying a monthly payment of $1,266.71. Well, as you would expect, that's going to be money out the door. It's going to drain our budget, and so therefore we're going to make it a negative right now. So negative $1,266.71. And 11 years is the amount of time that we've been paying on this loan. So I've got 11 ready to go right there. And notice the present value then is $122,186.34. In other words, that's how much we still owe on our original loan that we had. I didn't mention how much we borrowed initially, and I probably should have, but let's pretend we want to know how much we actually borrowed in the beginning. So as you look over the toolboxes, if you wanted to know how much was in the loan to begin with, we could actually reverse this and use this very scenario. We could argue that it was a 30-year loan with that scenario, and there you go. You actually, that's actually faster than I would have thought. By changing that to 30, what we see is the original loan was for $211. But by saying that we have 11 years left to go, then this is giving us our balance. And that's kind of fascinating. A lot of people think your debt would be halfway paid off in half the time. But notice that's just not true. A 30-year loan is $211,000. If I put in 15 years halfway, you'll notice it doesn't come close to being in half. You still owe $150,000 or more. So that's a very sobering thought. All right, so present value can be very useful when it comes to investments as well as, in this case, debt. All right, we pull that one out, and I didn't want to lose that, so I'm going to actually drag that one back over here so I've got it for my records. Two more examples and we'll be done. So I'm going to pull this next one in, the investment interest example. Assume that you invest into a company-sponsored 401k retirement plan. You started out with $500 in the account. All right, so we're going to go after investment interest, so that's why I'm going to use this box as opposed to debt interest, of course. I'm going to put $500 as my present value, and it's money out the door as well, so I'll make that a negative, -500. And I'm going to be adding to it a consistent $325 monthly payment, so that's a negative $325. It too is outflow, so we'll put a negative on that. This is 8.25% interest, easy enough. And it too is compounded monthly, of course. And we're going to do this for 40 years during our career. And and it's pretty amazing. You've got over $1 million in interest. As a nice way to verify that, just really quickly, all I have to do is hop over here to the future value box, and I want to verify that it's really and truly more than $1 million altogether, both interest and principal. So I'm going to pop in the APR of 8.25, and I'm going to use negative $325 as my present value. Sorry, my payment. Let me try that again. The present value was negative 500. There we go. And the payment was negative 325. And we do this for 40 years. I'm just doing this to make sense of this. Is this really reasonable to have over $1 million in just pure interest? But as you can see, the future value would actually be 1.2 million. So this is definitely doable. Now, if you want to be extremely confident in that answer, we could also calculate how much principal we would have paid. So maybe I'll do it right down here in this cell, just really quickly. I know I'm going to start with 500. I'm going to add to it $325 multiplied by 40 years multiplied by 12 months in each year. And that gives me $156,500. And I guess we could argue this was our principal. So many times I'll use the cells around the toolbox like you're seeing me do here, just so I can do some little mini calculations. And then if I were to do this, the simple sum of those two figures, that one and that one, added up, you'll notice it matches over here perfectly, 1.2 million. So that gives me confidence that we've thought this through correctly. All right, so that's how you deal with investment interest. And let me go to the final example. So I'm going to take that one out and zip over here and grab the debt interest one. There we go. Paste that right in here to my little whiteboard. I hope you like the whiteboard that I worked hard to build, pixel by pixel, color by color. It was very time consuming. No, I'm just kidding. All right, last example, debt interest. Assume that you have made a car payment of $441.99 monthly for 18 months, and you originally had to borrow $23,000 on a 5-year car loan with a 5.75% compound monthly APR. How much interest have you paid on the loan thus far? A lot of detail there, so let's use our debt interest box. We know it's going to be 5.75, obviously, for the APR. And the original number of payments, well, it was a 5-year car loan, so that's 60 months, 5 times 12. The present value was said to be $23,000. But we have been doing this for 18 long months of $441 a month, so I'm going to convert 18 months to 1.5 years, 1.5 years. And there you go, $1,734 is what you would be considering to be interest out of your payments over those 18, or in other words, 1.5 years. That concludes our 6 examples. I guess you could argue that the first hurdle you have to get through is to determine which toolbox to use in the first place, and so I just want to call your attention to the fact that we labeled each toolbox in bold right next to the cell-protected gray formula cells there. So we hope it's pretty self-explanatory. Don't forget the commentary down here at the bottom, and just experiment. Little by little you'll get very good at these. So thanks for taking time to watch this tutorial.